Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Now available on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, it's Steve Austin. Welcome to the Steve Austin Show. I'm very lucky today, very honored to be joined by Shawn Michaels. If you don't know who Shawn Michaels is, he's quite simply one of the absolute greatest professional wrestlers to ever step foot in a ring. He is a three-time WWF champion, a one-time World Heavyweight champion, a one-time WWF European champion, three-time Intercontinental champion, five-time WWF E champion, tag champion, one-time WWE Tag Team champion, two-time Royal Rumble winner, WWE Hall of Fame inductee in 2011. Shawn now hosts Shawn Michaels' McMillan River Adventures, which has aired for 2 seasons, and Season 3 starts on July 2nd on the Outdoor Channel. The show has been nominated for multiple awards, including Best Show. He has won a Golden Moose Award for the Best Conservation Show for the controversial Wolf episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to announce Shawn Michaels. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Steve, I appreciate you having me, although I have to tell you, after conferring with counsel, they have informed me that I should probably plead the fifth on everything. So, I don't know that I can tell you much, especially after that intro, man. I mean, that covers all the good stuff. Everything else goes downhill pretty drastically after that.
It all goes downhill from here, and I appreciate you bearing with me. You know, when we just started this show, I knew that part of the program was going to be to have people on such as yourself, and I tell you what, I had to brainstorm idea. I said, you know what, shit, I might as well just have Shawn Michaels on episode 2 and go from there and jump right in, feet first, and here we are talking. So bear with me as I hack through this thing, and you and I have known each other for a long time, and to go back and give a little bit of history on you and me, I remember back in the day when they brought me into the WWF, they brought me in as a ringmaster, and you know, they just brought me in as a mechanic and just a guy that could have matches with anybody on the card. And if you'll remember, you were on top back then, and you and me worked a lot back then, and just because you needed an opponent to beat who could give you a good match, and I was that guy. So to the listening audience out there, I cannot tell you how many times Shawn Michaels has kicked me in the mouth, and I was looking up at the lights, laying there on the mat. I looked up at the lights so many times, I think I need my retina and my corneas replaced. Thank you, Shawn.
Well, and that's one of the things, it's funny, that, I don't think there's ever been a time we've really got to talk about that. I mean, it was, obviously, how do you not? I mean, obviously, the Stone Cold was, was huge, and it's hard not to focus on that, but, one of the things a lot of people don't know is that, when you first came in, you and I were main eventing a lot of, they wouldn't put us in any of the major towns because we hadn't done anything on TV, but in every other place. And I'll tell you, one of the things you did for me, and this isn't blowing smoke, and you remember me commenting on it the first time you said it, which was, we got together and you said, hey man, could I just sort of just, you call it out there and just sort of do whatever. And if you remember, I was like, dude, yes. I mean, anything, I had, at that time, I was, probably wearing more hats than I should have at that time, trying to be a good guy and the champion and all that stuff, and having to general a lot of my own stuff at that time. And to be able to go out there and just not do anything except depend on the guy, get the old way, I guess. I don't know. I'm assuming, Steve, because it's your show, we can be open and honest.
We are open and honest. Anything flies on this show.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You could just, it was for me, especially, at that time, it was a huge, favor to me, to be able to just have a dude out there calling a match. And, I was thinking about it today. They were very, if you don't mind me saying, they were very Flair Steamboat-ish, our matches then.
Right.
And, again, as much as I would have, liked to have brought that to TV, obviously, we never got that opportunity, but, it was a huge, huge thing for me at that time to just have a guy that I could go out there and completely relax with, and not all of it sort of be on my shoulders to call and to try to get through.
Well, it was a lot of fun for me because, coming from a different territory, I'd been watching you for years and knew, obviously who and what you were, one of the best in the world even at that time. So to go out there and get a chance to wrestle with you, and, this was back in the day before I got dropped on my head, and I was a little bit more wrestling-oriented. I kind of had to modify my style after the pile driver, and back then I was a little bit more of a scientific wrestler, so there was a lot of wrestling that went into those matches, and we really gelled together, we really flowed together and had great chemistry, and we really didn't know each other too well. So those matches were very instrumental for me because I remember one time you and I were wrestling at the Houston Summit. It was sold out, and we just went out there and did our things. And then I remember after that match, Bret the Hitman Hart had watched that match, from one of the doors, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, man," I just want you to know that was a hell of a match. He goes, I'll be glad to work with you anytime. And that was just based off a match with you, and there I was as a dumbass ringmaster. So it certainly opened a lot of eyeballs and doors for me. So, much appreciative on my side. But, I want to talk about a little bit of your career and covered in real broad strokes because I'm sure you're kind of in the same boat as I am. A lot of times when people interview me, they ask me the same old shit that they've been asking me for 10 or 15 years. And, man, I'm always happy to talk to people, but sometimes, the same old thing is the same old thing. So I want to step out a little of the box a little bit and just, if you and me were just sitting here shooting the shit and drinking beer or whatever or hunting on an MRA adventure or at the Broken Skull Ranch, I just wanted to start off with a couple of questions, take you back to your childhood, work into a little bit of WrestleMania 14 specifics, the night I won my first championship from you, and talk about, what you're doing these days with McMillan River Adventures.
Yeah, well, obviously, I guess going back to the beginning, military kid, at the beginning, like with all military kids, you're moving around quite a bit, born in Arizona, 2 months later off to somewhere in England, I don't even remember. First memories from Maryland, Camp Springs, Maryland, at I think 4 years old. But then moving to Del Rio, Texas, I think at 8, and then.
Man, how was Del Rio back in the day?
What's that?
How was Del Rio, Texas back in the day?
Yeah, well, it was. It was dry. It was hot. It was desert. But you know what? I don't know. To me, it was that was the very beginning of of falling in love with the state of Texas. You know what I mean? And getting dirty, riding bikes, riding dirt bikes, stuff like that. My first encounter with the outdoors. Never went hunting. Way too young. But getting to fall in love with the Texas lifestyle, but more than anything, hot.
Real hot. Yeah. And then did you go from Del Rio into San Antonio?
Yeah. My father got transferred up to San Antonio. We were 3 hours up the road, and
well, I've got some questions for you there going into the San Antonio location. But when did you first know? In your heart, you wanted to be a professional wrestler?
In San Antonio, it was right before cable was coming out. The old cable.
How old were you?
I was 12 years old. Got to whatever reason up late on a Saturday. It was back when they were wrestling was 12:30 at night on Saturday nights, and Southwest Championship Wrestling came on, and just that montage at the beginning just sort of drew me in. And at that time it was Wahoo McDaniels and Tully Blanchard. They had they had the big feud going on there. Scott Casey, Black Gordman, Jose Lothario, and then Scott Casey had this huge thing, angle with Eddie Mansfield that ended up in a hair versus hair match. It was just, but that was all that the Funk's coming through, and then as cable came about, almost around the same time. That's when we got TBS and the then WWF out of the Madison Square Garden and that WOR TV, and you know, and so I mean, it just sort of consumed my life. I mean, it was. You know, I was obviously, you know, Steve, growing up in Texas, football is everything. And
well, that's what I wanted to ask you. You know, you're taking a shine to this wrestling at about 12 years of age. What kind of kid were you? I know you as Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, par excellence in the ring. Were you a total sports guy? Was it football, baseball, track?
Well, believe it or not, I mean, I was an incredibly shy kid. You know,
really?
I mean, believe it or not, it turned out to be obviously very, very obnoxious. But, you know, very shy kid, you know, coming from the, you know, military background, always being the new kid, just sort of, you know, was shy. And yeah, I mean, it was football, but, you know, yeah, played baseball, ran at, you know, Laughlin when we were in Del Rio. But when I got to Randolph, it was basically, you know, I wasn't big into basketball, so it was football, you know, and then in the off season they had a lot of the football players doing track, and you know, I threw the discus, you know, and the shot put, but you know that wasn't a very premier thing. So basically, it was focused on football year round, and then I was going after my wrestling bug, you know, all the other times. I mean, me and my buddies were constantly going down to the base gym, and even though, you know, I mean, I wasn't, you know, training. I mean, you know, you start going over stuff and you start watching it, and then then you begin to, you're studying a little bit, and you know, you start trying to do the stuff you're seeing on TV. And
did you guys have a ring, or were you just on a mat?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, me and my buddy. I mean, we were having, you know, full matches, and I mean, we did a match for our high school talent show. You know, and you know, there were other guys, you know, joining us. You know, you finally, you know, you meet other people that are sort of into it. And
but if you guys are just all of a sudden putting these matches together, you guys already calling high spots before you've done any kind of training?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean,
so you were smart to that back then.
Well, I mean, you know, I think it's. I mean, we were just in there doing it on an amateur wrestling mat. You know what I mean? And that thing was open all the time, and we were in there, you know, just bumping each other around, beating the crap out of each other, you know. And you know, and doing our best not to, you know, to kill each other. That's why, again, you know, years later, I tell you, man. I mean, you know, Jose, you know, he trained me for probably 2 months, and he goes, you basically know what you're doing. I mean, and not to, you know, at some point during the watching, Steve. I mean, I started watching it, but then, you know, you're not consciously studying it, but you are. You know what I mean? It's, you know, you start looking at, okay, I'm sort of getting this, but this is. There's a way to do this and a way not to do it, and that's something you know. By the time I was 15, 16, you know, I really started to focus on, and you know, doing my best to get better seats, you know, get those second row seats or first row seats at the Hemisphere Arena, and I'm watching really close what they're doing. You know what I mean, and doing my best to try to figure it out, and then putting it to use. You know, the next week, you know, on one of my buddies at the base gym.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Hey, man, do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. Well, you know, and that's great that, you know, you got to absorb the business and had an inside understanding of it from a very early stage. You know, I remember being in the locker room one time and, you know, stinking the joint out, and Dutch Mantell pulling me aside and telling me to watch every single match because that's the only way that I was going to learn this. And I watched and watched and watched, and I watched growing up as a kid. But, you know, I obviously didn't pick it up as soon as you did. So obviously, I would akin that probably to you taking in the ring and everything that goes on inside a ring to like a Stevie Ray Vaughan and handing him a guitar. I think it's a very close parallel.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I also, again, I mean, I still never, even into my first match at Lake Charles when I broke in with, Bill Watts, I still didn't know how it all came together. I mean, Jose was an old timer, and he never completely smartened me up. And basically, in my training, all I did was, he didn't do squats. He had me get on the top rope and do the backflip, and then I was taking bumps, but I never had a full match, or I didn't know about calling the match. I didn't know how it all came together, and I can remember, going to the ring the first time, wondering, like, how is this going to happen? And all Grizz Smith told me was, he'll beat you with the spinning neck breaker, and just, Art's a good kid, and just listen to him, and he'll take care of you. And that's, he never told me he was going to, and so I didn't know what listen to him really meant,
Right.
until I locked up with him, and it was Art Cruz, and he started talking to me, and then just, much like you did, man, 15 years later, he started,
I finally picked it up.
I started doing it, and,
yeah.
And thankfully enough, I mean, none of it, I didn't, I'm pretty good at following directions. So, I mean, that's, the first one went well, and, I came back, and much like you, man, that's what they told me, man. They said, you watch every match, and I did.
But how long did it take? Did you just initially hook up? Jose Lothario broke you in and trained you, correct?
Yes.
Now, did you seek him out? How did you guys come across each other?
No, well, you know what? I mean, I had, been bothering my dad about wanting to do it. And, of course, breaking in then was, next to impossible. Well, my dad comes home one time. He used to golf a bit. And comes home and says, I played golf with a guy who said he knows the promoter for Southwest Championship Wrestling. And it switched over from Joe Blanchard to a guy named Fred Barron. And he said he's the used car salesman, assistant manager at North Central Ford. And so we went down there and spoke with him, and him and my dad sort of agree that I need to go to college first so I can have something to fall back on. And, so I go to 2 semesters of college, and then I come back and I say, I go back home and I said, let's go. I want to go talk to the used car salesman again. I want to do this now. And my dad calls him, and that's when I meet Jose.
But you went to college at Southwest Texas State, correct?
Yeah.
What happened? Did you just not dig
Texas
college?
State. What's that?
Did you just not dig college? What was your major? What was your plan going in there? Was it any kind of athletic scholarship?
Well, funny thing. I mean, I was, first semester I had no idea. Second semester, I thought, I'm going to start doing something that might, help me in the wrestling. And so I can't remember the name of it, but it was like creative communications or something like that. It was, stuff where I could start, talking and things like that. Learning to cut promos, and the only class that I really did well in, I got an A, and I took it all in, was psychology. Strangely enough.
Fancy that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, at that brief meeting at the used car place was where first time I met Jose, and again, he was, he told people later on, he goes, Sam, initially it was just about, making $3,000. I mean, this is back in 1985. We paid, my dad had to take out a loan, and,
he charged you $3,000?
What's that?
He charged you $3,000 to teach you how to wrestle?
Yep.
Man, that is a lot of money. Yes, that is a lot of money.
Back then, I mean, it still is now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was steep then. And,
what did your training consist of? How many days a week were you going to train with Jose?
I was going 5 days. I mean, I was going.
That's awesome.
I was going every day. But I mean, it probably, and in his defense, I mean, I think it was just a business thing. And then, about 2 weeks in, obviously he never gave us the money back. but I mean, I think he realized that I might have something, and then it became more than just having me do a bunch of Hindu squats. He was really good to me, but I mean, we did not do a ton of technical stuff. I mean, but
what did you learn the most from Jose?
Basically, how to take bumps. You know what I mean? How to take bumps and the backflip off the top rope. I mean, that was something he wanted me to do. I was certainly because I could do it. I was a really good diver. I mean, we never had I was a kid that could do darn near anything off the board, the diving board. Never did anything competitive. I was just a kid that spent all summer in the pools. So I mean, he had me doing a bunch of flipsy-doos and dipsy-doodles and all that kind of stuff that I used to do at the beginning of my career when I still had knees.
Now, was he teaching you a vast background of chain wrestling, or was that something you guys were doing in the gym before you hooked up with Jose just by watching?
No, I mean we would do a little of that, but I mean we were doing more of the hip tosses, the reverse hip tosses, and body slams and stuff like that. I mean, truthfully, I learned. I mean, and that's what he said. He said, "Look, you just need to get out on the road." I learned more in 6 months in Mid-South. And as you know, Steve, back then, man, you went to different territories. There were guys with different styles everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
on the job training.
Yeah. I mean, it was just the absolute best way to learn was watching, you had guys that had been wrestling all over the country and all over the world coming in different territories, man. It was a, who's who of different wrestling styles. I mean, and that's, obviously where I learned more than anything, when I was, on the job training.
As far as your work in ring has always been, just extremely sharp, extremely crisp. I've always gone on record as saying you're the greatest in-ring performer I've ever seen. And, from just execution, psychology, night in, night out, telling a story, multiple layers, salesmanship, just the whole thing from top to bottom. You were one of the best sellers in the history of the business. Where did you pick up your ability to do that? Did you draw any of that from Jose? Where did you pick up? Who helped you sell?
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, the two guys I would probably give majority of the credit for that would be Ricky Morton and Terry Taylor. I mean, those are, again, obviously continued to try to work on it. And I tell you what, Marty was a big part of that when I got to Kansas City. But, Ricky Morton and Terry Taylor were the two guys that I watched a lot, spent a lot of time with in Mid-South when I very first started. And that's where I, really watched and learned, about how to really draw sympathy, from the crowd and to make it believable, especially, when even at that time it was still, more the traditional way of wrestling, but even then, it was starting to turn a little bit. They had the big, rough, tough baby faces there too, and Dr. Death and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Jake the Snake, so it was starting to turn into, the more tough guy baby faces, but, guys like Taylor and Ricky Morton could still draw that, that old school sympathy, and so I got to give them a ton of credit.
Yeah, those guys were awesome, and especially Ricky Morton being a smaller guy, and Rock and Roll Express is one of my favorite tag teams in my top 3 of all time, and Ricky Morton was absolutely wonderful. Do you think in today's ball game that the art of selling has been somewhat lost?
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. I don't know if it's lost. I think that it's done less because, for different reasons. I mean, I think that
because it's a faster product and they're just trying to go, and not get people to change the channel. I think maybe lends something to that.
And again, I mean, and I don't know how much of it is being concerned about, the development or lack thereof of the character. A lot of guys, they worry about, being vulnerable. I mean, if you get to pick a part, everybody, Kevin Nash used to always joke with me about, like, hey, who doesn't want to be the guy that flies the helicopter smoking a cigar, with the machine gun in his hand, beating everybody up and getting the chick at the end? Everybody does, but you can't always be that guy. Everybody's sort of got to have a role, and, sometimes you got to be the guy that does get beat up. And that's one of the things that, again, even for all my faults in the ego area, which there were plenty of, I was always really comfortable with making, Shawn Michaels, HBK, whomever you want to call him, pretty well rounded. You know what I mean? That he was going to go ahead and experience every emotion. Didn't matter if it was, you know, funny, sad, laughing, crying, hurt, you know, scared, whatever. You know, I mean, you run some risks with that. You know what I mean? But I mean, it was, you know, that was a choice I went ahead and made. And so I think, you know, to the point of your question, you know, I think you know, guys are less, you know, desiring of wanting to play that role. I think more people want to be, you know, dude, you made one of the coolest characters, you know, in history, and it's pretty tough not to want to be that guy. You know what I mean? When you compare Stone Cold to HBK, which one would most dudes want to be?
Well,
you know what I mean? And so,
but that being said, even as Stone Cold, I had to learn how to sell in the dose that was proper for Stone Cold, because, I mean, even as Stone Cold, I mean, if I didn't have any vulnerability and if I was just chopping through people and running through them, then, you know, and to a vast majority of the time, that's what I did. That's what the crowd wanted. But, yeah, even Stone Cold had to be vulnerable. But before you know, I kind of fast forward into some of your title reigns in the WWF. I know that you opened up a wrestling school there for a period of a couple of years. How was that? Did you enjoy teaching what you had been taught and what you had learned on the road? And why did that all stop?
Yeah, I mean, I did really enjoy it. I mean, I you know, it sort of takes you back to all the best parts of the business, you know, all the stuff that you sort of enjoyed before it got tough and it got to be the business, you know what I mean? I mean, so that, from that standpoint, it was real fun and very enjoyable. Very much enjoyed it. The reason I stopped, one, was because, I mean, again, that's when I started, you know, considering coming back. But also, you know, that was still in I was still transition stage between, you know, being the screw up that I was in the past and trying to get my life together and get my family life together and back on track, and I just didn't think I could, you know, do it all at the same time. And third, you know, I started doing TV and running some shows, and that really got tough. You know,
right.
Somewhat financially, but also I can't imagine. You know, I mean. Here's the, you know, and I mean this, you know, respectfully, but I mean, having guys who, you know, haven't really made it in a lot of places look at you and go, "Hey, dude, I mean, what are you doing with me on TV?" It was tough. It was meant to just be a starting ground and a place to get experience, but to have to deal with, you know. Again, I mean, again, it's funny because it happened to me, and I was tough on, you know, I was tough on people. The irony was, you know, to have somebody who, you know, hadn't been anywhere in the wrestling business yet look at me and go, "Hey, dude, what are you doing with me?" Or, "I don't want to do this," or, "I don't want to do that." It just, I thought to myself, it's hardly worth it. I'm trying to, you know, it's a little too much of a headache, and so that combined with, you know, thinking about coming back and you know, focusing on getting my life together, I just felt it was better to, you know, to give it over to somebody else.
Well, you know, and talking from you and I having this conversation, I'm sure there's been so many times you've been asked, Shawn, you know, where should I go to learn how to wrestle? Do you have any recommendations? I get asked that all the time. And obviously your school would have been a premier spot to go. If you get asked that question today, if there's somebody out there listening that is trying to get into the business of professional wrestling, do you have any recommendations off the top of your head that you would consider a good place to learn?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, I honestly don't know that many places. And I say that, I mean, like I know, I want to say Jesse Gonzalez. I think it's Jesse Gonzalez out in L.A., you know what I mean? But, I sort of point everybody towards the WWE because I honestly don't, I don't know them. I guess because my concern is, you know, even the way I did it, I mean, it's tough because with the insurance and if you're going to do it right and it's not going to be just beating guys up and trying to make money.
Right.
It's harder to do it that way, and a lot of guys don't want to do it that way. And so I'm real careful and, you know, about recommending somebody. I just do my best to tell them to really make sure they fully vet whoever it is. You know what I mean? And be real conscious of giving your money to guys that mostly just want to beat you up and not really, train you well. That's a big step, man. And so I honestly don't have enough information to know who's out there and who's credible and who isn't.
Right. Well, so you started, Jose taught you, you had your first match, you go to Mid-South and Power Pro, correct, and then on to AWA. So you put in your time there, you end up in a WWF. You have all the success you had with Marty as the Rockers, but I want to go right to your first singles championship. Your first IC championship was against British Bulldog Davey Smith, and you winning that belt from him. What did that mean to you to win your first major belt, and what was the perception of that belt as it relates to the boys on the crew?
Well, I mean, I think, both the moment that it meant to me and what it meant to the boys and the crew, I think are sort of synonymous. I mean, certainly in my mind, it was the belt that the workhorse had.
Exactly.
The guy that could, it was, at that time, it was more, the World Championship was more the sort of the commercial guy of the company. And the Intercontinental Champion was
a working bastard,
for lack of better terms, the real wrestler.
Right.
And so that's actually the one I can remember thinking. And it was many years ago, because I had that perception of it even before I was in the WWF, but still in the business. I was just a guy that saw the Intercontinental belt as like, the belt like a guy like me really wanted. So it was unbelievably satisfying, of course, obviously. And then you want to, you certainly want to be the guy to uphold sort of that, that reputation, even if it's, even if it's one that you and sort of the guys have established. I mean, it's one that I think people, as well as I do, took pretty seriously, and again, I guess I look back on stuff now, Steve, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can remember Vince telling me way back when, like, hey, man, like, the first World Championship, I'd like you to enjoy this, and yada, yada, yada. And,
enjoy it?
Yeah. I guess that's
easier said than done.
The Intercontinental Championship is probably the last title, that I enjoyed until I came back, in 2002. Of course, I made it a point not to hold any titles then.
Right. Moving on to the World Heavyweight title, you won that title from Bret the Hitman Hart, one of the greatest of all time. What did winning that belt mean to you on a personal level?
Well, again, I mean, it means a lot of very cool stuff. And again, it's you want to, I don't know, I want to like tell people it's obviously it's huge. I mean, it's the kid in you, all the reasons you want to, be in the business and things of that nature, all have come true. And from that standpoint, when you're allowed to have those moments of clarity and reality and be, Michael Shawn Hickenbottom, the kid from Texas, it's great joy. As you know, Steve, you sort of live, a double life a lot of the times while you're doing that job. And, the Shawn Michaels, the business dude, the wrestler, the whatever, didn't have the ability to enjoy it. You know what I mean? You're just.
Did you stress about the responsibility that belt places on you?
Yeah. Again, I don't, I think probably at that time I'm sure I said, I don't care and stuff like that, but you got to draw. You're looking at the house every night. I can remember, I can't remember one time when Bret had the belt or when Hogan had the belt. I can't remember when I first got to the WWF. Nobody was talking about ratings. On from TV. We still had shows. I don't remember ratings being talked about until I think I don't know, the first Monday Night Raw, or maybe somewhere even a little bit later than that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm sure they were talked about. I'm just saying I never remember hearing about it. And, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, I knew about the house. You know what I mean? How's the house? How's the house? You know, but yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that comes with it. And again, looking back on it, you know, I sometimes I go, yeah, I know it's great, but then I have a very realistic, you know, response of like, you know, but I mean, I can't say I let myself enjoy it because I was too busy thinking about all the other sort of stuff, garbage, whatever you want to call it,
right.
Pressure that you know that came along with it.
Let's jump to WrestleMania 14. WrestleMania 14, a pivotal time in my career. It was the night in Boston Fleet Center where I was going to win my first World Heavyweight Championship. I was going in to face none other than yourself, the Heartbreak Kid. We had Mike Tyson involved as a special referee. Obviously, you being the heavier-footed guy at that time in the business, you knew that Mike Tyson was going to be a part of this whole extravaganza probably way before I did. But when Vince is breaking this information down to you about Mike Tyson being involved, what ran through your head? Were you down with that? Were you say, hey, that's a great idea? Or where were you on the whole Mike Tyson thing?
Well, I mean, as best I can recall, I mean, I don't think I knew about it, you know. I mean, I can remember, I think, hearing about it, but, I mean, you did the first thing with him. I mean, and I mean, to be perfectly honest, I can remember, I can remember being a little jealous of, like, you know, I mean, he's going to, you know, Mike Tyson's going to be here, and I'm in the main event with Steve, and I don't even get to do anything with him. And so I didn't know we were doing the DX thing or anything like that the first time when you guys went out there and did the confrontation with him where you pushed him and all that with Vince. I didn't even know where we were going then. You know what I mean? So, and I got, you know, and as you know, Steve, I mean, somebody could have told me then, and it's gone now for all I know. But I mean, but that notwithstanding, I mean, you knew it was going to be big. You knew it was going to help, obviously, you know, the pay-per-view. Yeah, it was one of the, you know, having done a fair amount of those, WrestleManias with, you know, quote, stars, unquote. This one felt like this was going to be one that really worked in our advantage. And and again, everybody knew. I mean, you'd had been a dummy to know that, you know, didn't know that you were coming on hot. You know what I mean? So it was for me, and again, just being 100% totally honest, it was it's one of those things where you're like, you know, it's cool, all the stuff that's happening, it's big, but you're not a part of it. And that was admittedly a tough pill to swallow, and obviously not being the great guy, you know, that I am now. But I mean,
the guy I'm talking to now is a lot different than the guy back then, you know, because I remember, man, I mean, tension was high. We started building that WrestleMania 14 thing, and we brought Tyson in, and everything was going full speed ahead. And I remember the time you super kicked me on the top of the ramp there that one time, and, you know, Triple H was there, and, we were doing it was a hell of a build-up, but, man, it seems there was a little bit of animosity there. I mean, and you, seemingly to me, were just in a lot different space then than you are now. It seems you were beat up.
Well, and the thing is, the animosity was never at you.
No, it was never personal, and I get that.
Yeah, it was at the situation. It was at Vince. You know, the career's over. I'm dropping the title. I mean, we're about
frustration.
It was palpable that this is going to be big. You know, I'm going to miss it. I mean, there was absolutely nothing good going on with me, and so I was a dick to everybody.
But that being said, but how were you on a physical level as far as on a pain level? I know your back was bothering you at that time. You know, what kind of pain level were you in going into that match through the build?
Well, I mean, I can remember having that one dude, I can't remember his name anymore.
Francois.
Yeah, there you go. But, I mean, he came down to my place and was working with me, you know, every day before that. I mean, and I got to be honest. I mean, I was on, you know, a fair amount of stuff. So, I mean, for me to say what I would have been like, completely off it, I mean, I can't say. I can tell you that, you know, going into it, the whole thing that started it, it was excruciating. I mean, and you've had, that unbelievable pain going down your leg, the leg feeling like it's dragging. And I guess for me, that was the thing that, because pain, I guess, pain, I don't know, it's one of those mentally I could always sort of do with pain. Mobility and feeling heavy always, that more than anything, bothers me, frustrates me, and that's the thing I think that also added to, my frustration and my attitude and everything then, knowing that I could not, it was, the one thing that I had, Steve, always had, even if I was the biggest prick in the world, I could always go out there and just rip it down and tear it up. And I knew that was not going to happen this time. And that more than anything, I think, bothered me and affected my psyche more than anything else. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Well, it was interesting because I remember going into that match and I remember coming out of that match and, I won my first championship. But, I mean, gosh, you and me had ripped the ring up 100 times when I first came into the company. And then on the grand stage, it wasn't so much. I mean, that's just honestly just between you and me. And as many matches of the year you have had and that I've seen, it was could it have been better? It could have been a lot better. But given the situations and everything that was going on, we went out there and we did what we had to do. And so I won the belt that night, and you dropped the title to me. A big deal, a big step in my career, and something that I'll never forget. After that match, where were you in your head? Was it a letdown? Was it disappointment? Was that just part of the business? Was it a weight off your back? Where were you once that three count happened? You went back to the dressing room and just kind of chilled.
Well, I mean, the first thing was, there was no. It took a long time for me to get to the chill stage. I mean, I was, and that's, again. Obviously, now all these years later, I mean, it's still like the one question people always ask me, like, hey, if you could change anything. I mean, I'm not big on the whole regrets thing, because I don't like to change anything because it might change where I'm at. But it's like if you could have one do-over, that match has always been, one of the things. I don't know if you remember, but I can remember, creatively. I mean, I was always, as were you, good. I mean, we ended up doing basically what you and Hunter had been doing,
right,
in house shows. We didn't even, just because I wasn't even there mentally, had no drive to come up with something good and creative. You know what I mean? And that's just, I was, so I was never like that. Again, even if I was in the ring with somebody I didn't like, I never, my ring performance was never affected, from that standpoint because, that's one thing. It was one thing I wouldn't let suffer. So, the fact that it wasn't, ripping the house down bothered me. The fact that, the company was moving on, that bothered me. I can remember my biggest priority that night was nobody putting a shirt on me. I can remember being angry about that. You know what I mean? I was just, it wasn't until I got home, I think, and just got away from it all altogether, that I think I finally got a little relaxed and sort of felt like, the weight of the world been lifted off my shoulders. I can remember watching the show the next night, and Hunter and, Kid coming out and bringing all that. And again, and him doing the promo, you dropped the ball and all that kind of stuff. And remember, absolutely none of that even, bothered me in the least bit. I mean, having the ability and the clarity to not be upset with the moving on that happens when you leave. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's, I think, the first time, that I sort of felt like, holy cow, what I mean? This ought to bother me more. You know what I mean? If a shirt being laid on me, yesterday bothered me so much, how come this doesn't? You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's when I think sort of the idea of, Steve, the job, as great as it is, it keeps you so busy. And to just, maybe have time to get a hobby, to, not go get in the car, to lay around, to just sort of do whatever it is you want. I think it's the first time I probably thought about that since I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that sort of sunk in and felt like, so again, I guess that, to answer your question, probably, 24 hours later, it took time to settle in.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Hey, man, do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. Gotcha. And I wanted to move into down the road, and again, I'm covering a lot of broad strokes here because you had such a long career, and I'm just not going to ask the same old questions. You get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Your speech was the best promo you ever cut. I remember watching that thing, and I was there and laughing and crying during that speech because you had such a range of emotions, and I guess, I'd never seen you talk like that. So that was a very interesting night at the office and big for you. And so, subsequently you've wrestled since then, but now you are off the road. You are not a professional wrestler anymore. What was getting out of the business like for you? Was it hard? Guys just can't get out of the business anymore. And there used to be the old saying, oh, yeah, you get in the business so you can get out of it. That's bullshit. You get in with it. You get addicted to it. You fall in love with it. It is who and what you are. You're on the road for 45 days. You're dying to get home. You're home for 2.5 days. You're bored to death. You're ready to get back out on the road. That's what the business is, and you just turn. The way I always tell people is you turn into a damn zombie. I came, I did, they gave me a schedule, I went out and kicked ass, busted my ass, worked hard, and I loved every second of it. But, man, it's a whirlwind. And, I got out of the business because of my situation, but we're talking about you. So what was getting out of the business like for you, Shawn?
Well, it didn't I don't know. I didn't experience the it's hard thing.
No withdrawal?
No. And again, and I guess everybody always every time I say that, people go, "Well, hey, you don't want to say that yet? You might go back." And it's like, no, I'm just saying what it was at the time, what it is now. I'm not saying that I don't know what the future holds. You know what I mean? But I can tell you, I can remember after the first match with the Undertaker, driving back, from Houston with my wife and saying, you know what? That might have been the one to end it on. And I told her, I said, I don't think you can wrestle a perfect match. I said, but I think that was probably as good as it can get.
It was unbelievable.
I said, and I got to be honest, I'd rather end on something like that. You know what I mean? That's, if you're going to go out, that's the way up. You got to go out. And I got to tell you, Steve, you get the whole, and I'm not, this is going to sound bad, and I don't mean it that way, but, you hear everybody, oh, my kids are my life, my kids are my world, my family, blah, blah, and I get that. And I'm not saying it isn't true, but I really, my kids, I dig them a bunch, and, I want to be a big part of their life. I don't want to, if they screw up their lives somehow, I don't want it to be because they didn't have a dad, taking enough of a, didn't get enough involvement from their father in their life. You know what I mean? I just don't want to screw that up. And as much as I do love, the wrestling business, I love them a ton more. I could, look, it was starting to bother my little girl. The boy, he was, dealing with it okay. And with a boy, you feel like you're teaching them toughness and stuff like that by, tell him, like, hey, what Daddy do? We got to work. And it was really bothering my daughter. And she was young at the time, and I got to be honest, man, it was bothering me. It was getting hard, for me to leave. And they were working well with me and my schedule and stuff like that. And heck, I could even, I'm sure I could have, I could do it. Something a lot of the guys do 3-4 shots in a year. I just was also sort of ready to try something else. I always tell everybody, it's like I was full. And I don't know, maybe I didn't love the business. I don't know, the way I was supposed to. I don't know.
I think it sounds like you were ready to get out, and you had your priorities in line. And I remember I tell people all the time, man. I was flying so high and running so hard back in the day. Quite honestly, I didn't win Father of the Year at all, any year, ever. So I love my girls, but I was always on the road. I missed a big part of their life, and but that is what it is. And there's millions of people out, doing the same thing. Whether it's a truck driver or whatever you got to do in life to make a living, and ultimately that's what we were doing. But there's a time when it's time to stop, and I think a time in your head, when you can accept that. And it sounds like there's a time. It was finally at a place in your heart. And in your relationship with your family that you were cool with walking away and having, no regrets and looking forward. I remember as Paul Orndorff was getting out of the business way back in the day, and Paul had a spinal injury, and one of his arms was atrophied real bad, and he looked at me and he goes, Steve, he goes, don't worry, brother, there's life after wrestling. And I said, is there? And he goes, you damn right there is. So there is, and we're going to talk about life after wrestling right now, because we're going to go right into you coming out of the ring and turn into the world of hunting. And, man, one day you're riding in a limo going to a WWE event. The next day you're sleeping in a tent on some riverbank. You're the co-host of McMillan River Adventures with Keith Mark. I want to give a shout-out to your cameraman extraordinaire, Josh Ishmael. And you've had a very successful hunting show. When did you start hunting? How did this show come about? Because obviously, when I first met you, I knew you didn't hunt, but it's something you took up later on in life, and you just seem to absolutely be in love with it now.
Yeah, well, when after you beat me and ruined my life at WrestleMania 14.
Yeah, after being kicked in the chin 600 times.
Yeah, that's right. No, but that was my first opportunity to go. And, I went out the first time, Steve, and just fell in love with it. As it's so opposite of what we do, the peace and the tranquility and just, being out there. And man, it just mesmerized me. I just thought it was the absolute coolest thing in the world. And then you sort of, then you tie that into, okay, now you're harvesting this deer, and then you're gutting them, you're cleaning them. And then all of a sudden you're processing them, you're putting them out, you're eating them, and all of a sudden it's like, this is all very cool. This is like, here, I've gone, and it was right on the heels of this life, as you mentioned, of limos and this and that and everything, everybody and their mama, waiting on your hand and foot. And then there was this, the polar opposite of being very self-sufficient, and sure, maybe in a dirty, grungier way. And I got to tell you, man, that all appealed to me, so I obviously, continued to do it obviously as much as I could, and on those, after I went back in 2002, you get those, you get busy, as and you don't always have quite the time to get out that you'd like to, and you get out whatever for 3-4 days, in the season, and so for me, I was just sort of living vicariously through those guys on the Outdoor Channel. And, then you start thinking about, geez, that's what kind of awesome job would that be? Wouldn't it be awesome to go from this gig that I loved so much to that, And
let's talk about going from that gig into this gig, because, in that gig, meaning the life of the WWE, you're staying in 4- and 5-star hotels, being shuttled around in private jets and limousines. All of a sudden, you're taking out on the hunting gig, and man, you guys are schlepping it out anywhere you can, in a tent, in a sleeping bag, in a shithole place for you to be. That's just the way some hunting lodges and some accommodations are, and we love it because it is what it is, and you're in the outdoors. But how's that transition for you? Was it a little bit of a wake-up call?
Well, I guess I likened it to the beginning days,
right.
the days started at the beginning, and it was the love of the business. I mean, the money and the limos and the cool hotels, they came along with it, and it was awesome. Made it nicer to do. But at the end of the day, it wasn't the real reason I got into it. You know what I mean? I knew that. I mean, man, I can remember getting in the wrestling business thinking, like, man, if I could have a one-bedroom apartment and my own car, that would be awesome. You know what I mean? So, and this was the same way. I mean, and that's why I guess I feel like it's you know, it's something that's going to last, and because I'm doing it for all the right reasons, just like you know, the wrestling business. And you know, I mean, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, it appealed to me. I mean, there was, you know, I sort of like, you know, the dirty stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, I just don't. That's a part of my life that, I mean, that's truly been there since I was a kid. I mean, that goes back to Del Rio days, man. I liked being dirty. And that, you know, I mean, and, you know, it was actually more of a work, actually, for me to do the whole, you know, being in my suit and my this and my that and things of that nature. You know, at my core, I think I'm just, you know, I'm a kid that would rather play in the dirt and be outside and things of that nature. That's why, again, I mean, even the stuff that doesn't get filmed for the show, and, you know, doing a lot of the work on the ranch, I like doing it myself. I mean, I don't want to. That's
that kind of work. It's work, but it's fun work. And
it is, exactly. I mean, I guess that's the thing. It goes back to, you know, same old things, wrestling business. That, hey, you know, if you can, you know, make a decent little living doing something you really enjoy, man, you never work a day in your life.
When you're driving down the road in the wrestling business, your mind's going a million miles an hour. If you're sitting behind a wheel and you're the wheel man, or you're riding shotgun, you might be thinking about high spots, transitions, something to put on a T-shirt, or the stress of what's going on at the house, and you've got no control over it. These days, when you're sitting in a deer stand, or you're riding your tractor, you're building a fence on your ranch there in Texas. I know you pulled up stakes from San Antonio, and you're living on a ranch now. When you're sitting in a deer stand, it's quiet as hell, and you're enjoying the peace and quiet of the woods, maybe watching some wildlife. What goes through your mind these days? What do you spend the bulk of your time thinking about now?
You know what? I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, a lot of it is, you know, a lot of it's still focusing on my family. You know what I mean? I mean, my kids are at those ages where they're taking on new endeavors of their own. You know what I mean? Horse lessons, piano lessons, bandolero racing. You know what I mean? So I think a lot about that. Their little futures and things that, you know. I mean, I guess, not to sound too, I don't know, frilly willy on your show, but I mean, you know, I think a lot about them. I mean, and their, you know, and their futures and stuff I want to do when we get home. And you know, I spend a lot of time just, you know, taking it in. You know what I mean? And being thankful. You know, there's a time I don't sit out there and go, "Geez, man, Lord, you've been good to me." You know, I mean, you've allowed me to, you know, to do these things that I really like doing. You know, and have allowed me to call them jobs.
Hey, but I don't think there's anything silly about, you know, caring about the future of your kids, taking care of yourself, and being able to relax a little bit from a lifetime of hard work spent on the road. You know, when I'm sitting in a deer stand, I'm so at peace with myself and everything, and hey, I still got problems. There's still a bunch of stuff spinning around just like everybody else. But before I wrap this up, just as one hunter talking to another, for any of you people that are listening to this, you know, take some time, go get in the woods, check out the outdoor scene. My wife is a vegetarian. She's not going to kill anything, but she likes to sit in a deer stand and video deer. So if you can get outside, enjoy nature, and, you know, be responsible about your gun ownership and everything else that you do, it's a great way to spend some time and a great way to kick back. Shawn, I want to thank you very much for being my first guest on the Steve Austin Show. You're a legend in the business of professional wrestling. You've always been a very interesting cat to me. I've watched you from afar, admired your work. God, just when you had your attitude back in the day, you know, I didn't think too much of you. You know, I was pissed off at you like a lot of guys were, but you were leading the charge, and I got a chance to get in the ring with you on a special night on WrestleMania 14, and You and I never traveled the roads together. You know, we'll talk together again maybe. We can talk about the days of the clique, but just when you took up hunting and you and I, y'all came out with the MRA gang to the Broken Skull Ranch. It was wonderful spending time with you. I'm glad that we are as friendly as we are now, and I wish safe travels, happy hunting, and all the best to you and your family.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'll let you wrap it up. But that hunt, meant the world to me. I mean, because it I've always wanted to know you on a different level. I mean, and it's just too hard to do it while you're doing that job, and
it certainly, is. It's a competitive atmosphere.
Yeah. It is. You know what I mean? And especially back then. I mean, I was, and again, that's why it's like, it's like one of those things where you say, give me another chance, dude. Because we got a lot in common. I've always dug you and thought the world of you, and so you're welcome, with us, at any time, and again, I hope the show does well. Anytime you need me, I will be there. I'm a phone call away, man. So whatever you need, you just let me know.
I will give you a call in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go down to film Redneck Island, and I'm coming hunting with you and the MRA gang. Thank you very much, Shawn.
You bet, man. Take care.
Take care, man. Bye-bye.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Pluto TV is playing the biggest movies every night this summer for free. Watch hit movies like The Matrix, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Scary Movie, Runaway Bride, and more all summer long. Check out the biggest stars like The Rock, Keanu Reeves, Tom Cruise, Julia Roberts, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and more. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of free TV channels in English and Spanish featuring TV shows, news, sports, comedy, and more, all for free. Download the free Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device, including Android and Apple smartphones. Pluto TV. Drop in. Watch free.
Hey guys, Jay Cutler. Started a new podcast called Uncut with Jay Cutler. Most of you know me from the NFL, some of you have seen me on Instagram, and some of you know me from the reality TV world. Each week I'm taking you along with me as we discuss football, trending topics, and whatever's going on in my life each week. I'm bringing along people that are special in my life. Former teammates, friends, and some new people that I like and respect. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Podcasting. I think I'm doing this right. Can't wait to get started with you. Go subscribe now. Uncut with Jay Cutler, Apple Podcasts, Podcast One, and Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Big Brother Jake, a.k.a. Jake Warner, my government name. Check it out. I host a show called the Big Brother Jake Podcast, and I've taken my talents to the biggest and baddest platform on the planet. That's right, baby. Podcast One. My show is unique as I talk about everything. Life, sports, entertainment, being a single dad juggling several jobs. I'm a hot mess, but it's damn entertaining. Subscribe and review now on Apple Podcasts and listen on Podcast One or wherever you get your podcasts.